You are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 211. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where we talk about what really happens when you take a break from drinking. And it turns out to be the best thing you've ever done. I'm Anna, coach to high achievers who are done waking up with regret and ready to feel in control around alcohol. If you've ever wondered what your life could look like with less wine and more you, you're in the right place. Hello, my lovely people, and welcome back to the podcast. Now, today I'm going to be talking about a topic that's actually coming up frequently at the moment and has done actually forever, as far as I can remember, that comes up in my one-on-one sessions with people, and that is the topic of the word should. Right, should. You have probably heard at some point, or you may have heard at some point, that using the word should is something to avoid. Right? Maybe this is in some mindset work, or maybe you've had therapy, or maybe you've even had some experience of coaching, or maybe it's just one of those throwaway pieces of advice that kind of floats around personal development spaces, right? Don't say should. But most people don't actually know why. And they definitely don't know what to do instead. So it kind of just sits there like this vague rule. Don't say should. Now, the thing I always like to say is that coaching goes deeper than vague rules, right? Coaching isn't about rules. It's about getting to know who you are and understanding how you tick. And then the way I like to put it is we take from where you are now and we work with that to get you to where you want to be, right? So I often come across the word should. So today I thought it would be a good episode to cover for you. So today we're going to unpack exactly why that word, I think, quietly fuels a sense of guilt, pressure, and certainly drinking patterns, especially for high achievers, right? The people I work with, super just brilliant in their lives. And I also want to talk about how one tiny language shift can completely change the way your brain responds in the moment, right? I'm going to give you something very tactical and specific. I'm going to remove any signs that this is a real vague concept for you. So buckle up, because this one is going to be powerful. So firstly, let's talk about why the word should feels so heavy. Now, on the surface, I think the word should can sound sensible, right? It can sound like I have standards, like discipline, or I have a standard around discipline, so I shouldn't go against that. Or maybe it suggests a standard in self-improvement and the way you view yourself, right? I should drink less. I should have more willpower. I shouldn't care what people think. I should be further along by now. But here is what your brain hears when you say that to yourself. You aren't where you're supposed to be. You're doing something wrong. You are failing the test, right? And the real kicker, you're saying it after the fact. Right? You already want the drink when you're saying you shouldn't want it. You already feel awkward when you're telling yourself you shouldn't feel so awkward. You've already hesitated when you're telling yourself you shouldn't have hesitated. Right? You already care when it's like, well, I really shouldn't care about what they think. Right? So then what happens is the word should just piles judgment on top of an experience that is already happening, and maybe you could already say is bad and it's maybe gone wrong, maybe not gone to plan. You're not just dealing with desire or discomfort or maybe a social setting or other people or all those things. You're actually dealing with a layer of shame about having the desire or the discomfort. And it is that extra emotional layer that makes things feel unbearable. This is excellent news, by the way, because that one emotional layer is controlled and run by you and you exclusively. All right, just want to offer that. So whenever we say should, I want you to think of it like this. We are arguing with what is. The reality might be, I want the drink, right? We can see that. I have desire for the drink. when our should brain is saying, I shouldn't want this. The real life reality situation is this feels really awkward, right? Maybe you're at a party and it's the first one where you've had your glass of wine and now you're turning the second one down, and your should brain has gone to, this shouldn't be so awkward for me, right? Maybe I know what to say. Why is this feeling awkward? It shouldn't. The reality you're facing, and another example might be, I care what they think. When your should brain is saying, I shouldn't care, right? Anna's told me, and I've heard this, I shouldn't care. And here's what happens. When we fight reality, we create resistance. Resistance creates tension. Tension creates emotional discomfort. Emotional discomfort drives escape. And that's when the drink starts looking like relief instead of a choice, because it is our way out. It's our way of escape. As I said, work with a lot of high achievers. And I think actually this is one of those areas, this should space, where high achievers, I don't know if they feel this more than others, but certainly they feel it a lot. And I see this because high achievers live in a world of standards and expectations, often, that they have put on themselves. So what's happening is your brain is already wired to measure performance, right? You're already looking for this. Is this up to snuff? Is this what I expect of myself? Is this what, I would ordinarily expect based on what I've put into this? And then you layer on the should into drinking. It turns alcohol into some kind of moral scoreboard, right? And this is where we do not want to go. I do not go here. I do not make this any kind of moral failing, but you look out into society and any kind of problem that you might have around alcohol, it does become a very moral issue, right? It isn't, and when we're thinking like this, when we're thinking in should terms, I should be able to drink less, we are not feeling neutral. We are not really even looking at the behavior. We're acting from a very moral stance, right? Good people don't drink like this. People in control don't drink like this. Disciplined people wouldn't do that. I should be better than this. And this is incredibly heavy to carry every single day. And I want you to think about this. This does build and build and build. And even if, let's say you've done a streak of alcohol-free days, I see this a lot, right? People, they power their way through from Monday through to Friday, and then they have a drink, and then they kind of, oh, thank goodness the weekend, and we overdrink at the weekend. And then we have the shoulding on that. I shouldn't be, I should be able to manage the weekend in the way I do the week. So it just becomes a habit in itself, and it's incredibly heavy to carry. And when we're feeling heavy like this, when we've got all these heavy emotions, that is exactly what fuels the urge to check out and have a drink, right? I just don't want to deal with this. My clients tell me all the time when they first come to me, I just want to numb the feeling. I really don't want to feel the feeling. Now, here's something I want you to take on board. It's a real positive side of our brain. Our brains love choice. They like choice. They don't like pressure. Your brain does not change through criticism. It changes through awareness and agency. The moment something feels like a rule, pressure, or forced behavior, your brain is going to push back. Now, for all of you out there who are disagreeing at this point, say, no, Anna, I really like my rules. I'm rules driven. That's well and good. But I want you to think about the time when you don't like the idea of the rule, right? If we're feeling uncomfortable, and where alcohol then becomes quote unquote the solution. So I just want you to consider for a moment that if we're putting in all these rules, that isn't necessarily going to be creating the emotion that's going to, move us into where we want to be. Because when we start to say things like, I shouldn't drink, it's going to feel like restriction. Restriction is going to create desire, right? And desire then creates a sense of rebellion, and rebellion is the thing that pours the wine, even if you like rules, right? You become a rule breaker. You kind of enjoy the act of breaking the rule because you don't normally, right? So many people tell me, yeah, I'm a bit of a rebel. It's one of the ways I operate. And it is actually one of the main areas when I look at the types of people I work with. I have a whole section of content on what happens when you're a rebel, right? Because I see this a lot. We're holding ourselves to such high standards, high regard all the time. And then we just, we can, I just want to be spontaneous. I'm going to rebel here. That comes from this restriction. And this is why, if you're listening to this podcast, this is why discipline hasn't worked long term. This is why you are where you are. It's one of the reasons, right? Your brain has been resisting that pressure. It doesn't want to do it. We cannot bully ourselves into long-term habit change in this area, at least. And if you want to argue with me on that, I want you to think, has that approach worked so far, right? So what do we do about this? Again, I want to remove you from this kind of vague, or shouldn't say should. Here's what I want you to think about. The word could. I want you to swap the language. Just swap should for could. I could drink tonight. I could say yes. I could give in. I could also choose not to. I just want you to feel the difference, right? There is some level of space. It's sort of space, opens up space and gives us choice. Space in this regard is so important, right? I talk about pausing and being curious. Space and pausing is so supremely important. It's actually an underrated skill in life. And actually, I'm just going to segue a little. I've told this story to a few of my clients, but there was a quiz I went to over Christmas. And one of the questions was a lyric question on the 12 days of Christmas. It was me and my family. I had the pen in my hand, and we had to say what was the number 4 in the 12 days of Christmas. Without thinking, even I just because I knew the answer, I just wrote the answer down. Great, move on. And nobody on the team questioned it because it was Mum, and Mum knows all the lyrics, and I do. I'm very proud of that. Boom, I got the question wrong. I got it wrong, and it was because I was so sure I didn't think, and because I was so sure I didn't pause. It's kind of like the old exam thing, right? Read your work, read the question. Ever since then, it's only been a few weeks, but in every single quiz, I now pause before I write the answer down, even the ones that I 100% know. Right? And this can change your life. Think of so many things where if you just pause, I just want to take a breath here. And that's what we're doing here. We're just giving our brains area to choose, because from that place, your brain can actually engage with what's happening, or you give yourself a chance to engage with what's happening instead of just reacting to pressure, right? The word could, the feeling of the word could invites some sense of awareness, when should does nothing but invite shame. I just want you to think about that. So I have a little exercise for you. This is your homework of the week. I want you to write down 5 things you think you should be doing differently around drinking or life, doesn't matter. And then when you've done that, I want you to take each of these and I want you to rewrite them as I could ... but, right? And so I should be drinking less. And you rewrite it to I could be drinking less, but, and then you have to fill in the blank after that. You have to complete the sentence, because the part after the but is the bit that reveals the real reason you're not changing yet, right? We can't leave it hanging. I could be drinking less. We want to finish that. But what is the but? And this means you're not looking at judging yourself for being a failure, for being a sense of weakness. It's not about a lack of discipline. You're gonna get some truths here. You're gonna find some stuff out. And you might want to write 10 of these, right? I could drink less, but, and then fill in all the gaps and then look at them and see, how is that true? How could that be information that you could use to then go ahead and make changes? Because here's what's going to happen. You either change your reason, or you're going to stop beating yourself up for something you don't genuinely want yet. All right? We're going to change our reason for wanting the drink, or we're just going to stop beating ourselves up for this. Both of these approaches create freedom. So let me show you how this might work in real life. Maybe you're out at dinner. Maybe you're out at dinner with your husband or your wife, and your old brain might think, I should just have one. I shouldn't be this bothered about this. I shouldn't be thinking about whether I'm going to have a second, or this should be easy. And then this new way of thinking, our new brain, I'll call it, would be thinking, could think, I could have a drink, but I know I'll feel rubbish tomorrow. I'd rather feel clear, so I'm not going to, right? You might know, yeah, Anna, everybody knows if I don't have that second drink, I'm going to feel better in the morning. But it's not about that. It's about how we talk about ourselves in the morning in the moment rather, to motivate ourselves to take the action that will create that result in the morning, right? Rather than saying, I should do this because then I won't feel so bad in the morning. This is where we get control. Now, I have created for you a free should versus could worksheet that will help you to apply this properly. I am going to include a link in the show notes where you can download it. And here's the thing. I'm going to also offer this. If you download that and you fill it out, I want you to email it to me at anna@90dayslater.co. Include the subject line guidance, because then that helps me to see these. I get a lot of email. And I will personally review your worksheet and I will reply with direct coaching feedback to you on this, right? On this one topic. And this is not going to be sort of generic encouragement advice. I'm going to give you real guidance based on what you write, because this exercise is going to show you exactly where your brain is keeping you stuck in one of the areas. And once you see that clearly, then everything becomes easier to change. So as you start catching your shoulds this week, I want you to remember this. Nothing has gone wrong. Nothing is wrong with you. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are simply becoming aware of the pressure your brain has been creating. And when we create awareness, that removes shame. And when we do this, we create choice, which removes resistance, and that is where freedom begins. Just swap this one thing out, right? Should for could this week, and watch how much more powerful and just lighter you're going to feel in your body. So go ahead and download that sheet. And if you want me in your corner doing this kind of very specific work that is tailored specifically to your life situation, so that we rewrite your relationship with alcohol, I want you to book a discovery call with me. This is totally free, right? I do not work with everybody who books one of these, so you don't need to fear I'm going to strong arm you into coaching with me. That is not what happens. What we simply do is we look at where you are, you tell me where you want to be, and I will build for you the exact plan to get you to that goal. It is so good. You can book one of these by going to 90dayslater.co, and at the top you'll see book a call. And you can I'll also include a link to this in the show notes. And I will say I work with people all around the world, all sorts of time zones. If you do not see a time in my calendar that works for you, send me an email on anna@90dayslater.co, and I will figure out a time that works for us both. All right? Thank you, my lovely friends, and I will see you next week. If this episode hit home and you're ready to explore what life could look like with alcohol in the back seat, let's talk. I work with people one-on-one who are ready to create the relationship with alcohol that works for them, so they feel powerful in their choices and at peace with their habits. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call, or grab one of the free guides in the show notes to this episode. And if this podcast is helping you, a rating or review goes a long way to help others find this work too.